Imagine if there was a way to get clients without having to rely on social media, without having to be a whiz at editing or understand how to use Instagram. Do you do a carousel, a reel? Are you supposed to add music? For some of you, you have a business, you have needs, you have requirements, and you just don't have the luxury of spending the next 3, 6, 9 months learning all of these things. The good news, I feel, is this. Every single person now is running to social media and looking to build a personal brand so they can make money remote from their laptop in Bali, which is great. It's what I teach people to do. But I think it's important that we also teach people there are other mediums in which we can acquire new business. And better yet, those mediums are being massively overlooked, which is going to create some kind of opportunity. If everyone is going one way to try and get Insta famous to build their business, some of the old bricks and mortar, bread and butter means are being overlooked. And we're going to go into some of them now. Quickly before that, just let me explain how this video came about. And there's something you can learn from this. Funnily enough, a lot of my ideas for these videos on this channel come from interactions I have with people. So that's lesson number 1. If you have people coming to you asking questions, when you do come to making content in the future, they are the things you should talk about. There are personal trainers out there that have clients saying, what is a macronutrient? How do I lose fat? And why do I raise my heels in a squat? But then when they go to social media, they think they should do, here's my workout of the day. Here's my lunch prep for the week. If they only listen to the people asking them questions, they can make better content. But that's a different swerve tangent. There was a chap called Charlie who I competed against in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a high-level brown belt and I beat him. In the first match, I actually used so much effort trying to stop him from leg locking me that I was gassed. To the point, here's a picture of me lying on the mat completely exhausted. And then I had to face him again in the weight division where he beat me twice in a row in 2 separate matches in under 30 seconds. But ever since that, I've been following Charlie on social media. He's been following me and we're both at the same competition at the weekend and he comes to me with some business questions. His first question was, James, can you help me? My first response was, I'm not sure. What is the business that you have? Charlie's business is air conditioning, which I have no experience in. I sometimes do stare at air conditioning units and think, how do they work? Similar to a fridge. Find myself next to a fridge going, how do you work? I know you run through electricity, but what is happening for electricity to make things cold? I can understand electricity making things hot. The production of light, is it 95% of light is heat? I don't know. But how does electricity make things cold? I lay in bed awake at night trying to figure these things out. Probably should ask Charlie. But even though I know nothing about the air conditioning business, first question I asked him is the first question that I would ask you. What does a customer look like to you? Because although the business is air conditioning, is your client someone who's never had air conditioning, doesn't have it, or is it someone that has it, wants to upgrade, or maybe wants to have maintenance, or someone that can come out every 6 months to clean the filter? And Charlie said to me, someone who wants air conditioning or wants it fixed. So good news is this is a very broad spectrum. It's not like Charlie has an air conditioning business that only works on medium-sized commercial properties within a 5-kilometer radius of a certain point. So the first thing that my brain goes to when we eliminate social media as a way to build his business is flyering. Yes, flyering. Which I know can sound daft or like something you would do 30 years ago, but I'll explain why I think that there could be a comeback for flyering. The second thing Charlie said was about putting signage on his car. I don't think that's a good idea. I'll explain why in a second. And I have the authority to do that because I am someone who used to have signage on his car when he was a personal trainer. And first of all, my brand was called James Smith Training. And do you know how many clients I got from that signage sticker on the back of my car? None. Nada. Just meant that if I parked in disabled, people knew it was parking disabled. Anyway, back to the flyer. Biggest mistake I see with flyers is some people think that they can design a flyer on whatever program it is, Microsoft Paint by the looks of it. I'm like, listen, brother, stop doing it on Microsoft Paint. And also, to any of you watching this video, chances are the majority of you, I think about 70% are blokes. We've all tried through our single years to make a nice looking bed. We try getting a little European pillow, we try chucking a throw on it, always looks dog shit. When it comes to design, men, we are awful. When it comes to arranging and designing a front room, it has a lazy boy sofa and a TV. And if you're like me, you're probably someone that thinks, oh, a beer fridge would look good in here. When it comes to design, hire someone. Go on Fiverr, go on Upwork, ask your friend who's a designer to make it look nice. And if you haven't got the budget for that, get your missus to do it. I've had a few guys that I worked with this week in the mentorship where quite literally I saw their landing pages and I said, hey, can you get your girlfriend to have a look at this? Lo and behold, comes back, looks way better. They just have the eye for it. Now the flyer doesn't have to explain when you got your qualification, how long you've been a mechanic, that you used to swim for county. It doesn't have to have the branding of the business, and it just needs to have a few things. One, I think it's a good idea to have an offer, promise, and some form of humanization. Is humanization a word? I don't know. So let's look at some context for the offer. For an air conditioning business, I think you could say, we will come to your house and give you a free quote. Not only that, we will give you a design spec of what we think would be right for your house. Whether it's ducted aircon, whether it is I don't know much about aircon. whether it's a unit that goes on the wall. We could do a bit of feng shui. Hey, because the entrance to your house is there, we think the unit should go here. That does mean that it's going to be a little bit more expensive. However, if we do fit the unit over there, so free quotation, and in that you could say no obligation, because you don't want some slimy salesperson come around your house going, sign up now, buy now, there's 10% off. If I leave this house, you're going to have to pay more. So an offer, some form of promise, I think is another great idea. Something with aircon is a little bit more difficult. You can't say, this is the coldest you're ever going to be, you'll get your money back, because you could be exploited. But a promise could be, we vouch to have your air conditioning project finished within 2 weeks of sending you the quote. Timely. In Australia, we're approaching summer. That could be the very thing that gets that person over the edge. People are impatient. I'm impatient. When I buy things online, it's like, hey, $5 postage, $10 postage, $45 postage same day. I'm like, sold. Sometimes I think about hiring Uber drivers to go get things. You know, you can pick it up the same day. Anyway. And just before I get into the humanization point, let's look into other contexts. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, an offer, first week free, first month free. Great. The promise that it will be a safe session, that they won't feel intimidated, that they could make new friends, that it's something that they could enjoy, that it could be the future of their training. Coaching of any kind. Your offer could be, come train with me for free, come train with me for a week for free. And again, before you think that giving someone a week of your time could be crazy, we'll get into that in a second. And a promise. We will work towards your weight loss or fat loss goals. And if we do not accomplish what we set out within the first month, I give you a full 100% money back guarantee. These are also point of differences. So the offer and the promise are very important to put on there. Now, the next point that I would call is humanization. Okay, I'm not even sure if that's a word, but anyway, when it comes to the flyering, something that I've got someone to do before is to put something like the first thing on it saying, I hope you don't mind that my son or my daughter put this through your letterbox. Oh wow, someone is out there, not just proactively looking for business, they're out there with their kids. Their kid put it through the letterbox. Suddenly it doesn't feel so slimy and so dirty. Another thing is, if you're flying to your local area, if you've got a geographic thing, you might even have a yoga or Pilates studio, you want to get the people within a 5 kilometer, 3 mile radius in the onset, because they're just going to find it easier to get there. There's not going to be so many barriers to being a regular customer of yours because of geographic distances. You could even then, on the humanization scale, put your street name. Hey, I live over on Hall Street. They go, I know Hall Street. And I'm setting up a Pilates studio, and I thought it'd be rude for me to do so without just letting you know about it. So I hope you don't mind that my daughters and I this evening came and put this into your letterbox. And you could be area specific. Rather than just saying our studio is in North Bondi, you can have this effect. I don't know what it's called, but have you ever noticed that you go on holiday, let's say, you're doing a cruise in Benidorm, knowing you, and you're there, you're having a few beers, you're like, oh yeah. Oh, you come here often, all that usual chat. You say to them, where are you from? They say, Sunderland. We're from Sunderland as well. Trish, they're from Sutherland as well. What's the chances of that? Small world. What a small world. Can you believe it? Do you know Dave and Leroy? I know Dave and Leroy. Oh my God, we know Trish, you know Dave and Leroy. Before you know it, you're best friends. Why? Because you're from the same area. Same way that if you were, there's something, I could be making this up, where people are more likely to let you out at a junction if it's the same model of car because you've got some familiarity between you. Every time there's a glitch in the matrix, suddenly you're being more generous to people. Now you get out. Love the car, mate. Love the car. Probably not a GT3, is it? But you know what I'm saying. So if you can humanize yourself, even put a bit of vulnerability in there. Hi, my name's James. I've opened a brand new Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu studio. I'm really hoping over the next 3 to 6 months to grow this to the size that I can do this as my dream job and leave my corporate job of recruitment. Suddenly they go, wow, this person's taking a risk in life. I'm going to go because I'm going to make his dream a reality. So rather than trying to seem perfect and corporate, humanize yourself. Hey, after 40 years in the corporate world, I want to pursue my dream of having my own Pilates studio. I want to work with ladies that want to work on remaining strong and offset an injury or whatever it is. So they can read that flyer and not feel like they're being sold to. They can feel like they're being spoken to. Case in point, recently, my missus says to me, 2 young lads came around promoting their car detailing business. I said, have you got a card? She says, yeah, cool. Got the card, called them up. I said, come around, do 2 cars. Didn't even ask how much it was. I like the hustle. They came to the door, they were polite to my partner, and they just said, hey, if you need your cars washed, we're going to do it. When they turned up, I was like, how old are you boys? 17 and 20. Amazing. Great. There's the Golf, there's the Audi. Let me know how much it is. If that was an ad on social media or a video, I wouldn't have cared. But the fact they took the care and attention, they were local lads, they were young, they were little hustlers, I loved it. When they told me how much it was heinously expensive. It was, what even is car detailing? It is glorified polishing. I've got the PVC wraps on the cars, but they're plastic wrapped, the cars. So they got all this expensive polish. And I'm like, mate, I've done myself in here. They're like, oh, we'll get the right, it's plastic, you're washing plastic. So I won't be using them again, but still, they made a few $100, let's say that. So one of the things that I think is really important with this whole topic is that you need to be proactive. And we could even call that proactivity. So Declan over here, the lad who's going to edit this video, he got his job by being proactive enough to make videos for my barber for free. So then when I was at my barber's complaining about how my videographer before was retarded, people say you can't use the word retarded anymore, but I'm bringing it back. Trump's in office, the word retarded is back. He was retarded. My barber goes, mate, there's a lad that I've been working with, you should meet him. I met him, now Declan's here being heinously overpaid. Best paid 23-year-old in all of New South Wales. Also, when I started my PT business, before I had the social media following, I was proactive by going into local businesses. I actually was at a business event and I was talking about how maybe that... Is that you, Liam? Every time I'm trying to make content, you just bowl in here.
Oh, it's fucking quiet, mate.
Aye, mate. Just give us a minute, all right? I used to have the same excuses as you, bro, saying, oh, there's just not much opportunity in my area. And I was asked, oh, James, where's the gym you work in? I was like, Bracknell. They were like, oh, there's a big business park in Bracknell. How far are you from that? I was like, I'm in it. I'm right slap bang in the middle of that technology park, brother. He goes, oh, so you're telling me there's no local businesses that you could walk into in your lunch break and ask them if they wanted a free seminar on fat loss? So I probably could do that. I shit you not. The very first business I went into, they were like, oh, we'd love that. Booked me in. Now, there were only about 11 people that turned up to it, but they gave me a little boardroom. 11 people came in. That was my biggest crowd at that point. 11 people were there. I got to practice the process of giving my first talk. And at the end of it, 3 of them inquired about PT and 2 of them ended up as clients. So I didn't have to go into that business and ask that. But for so many of you, are there businesses, are there technology parks? And again, there'll be different flyers for this. The ones that go out to residential might say, hey, me and my daughters, me and my kids, or just that I've been in your area from a local road giving out things. Are you interested? From a commercial standpoint, hey, my name's James, I'm a personal trainer. For the next 6 months, I'm taking 2 hours out of my day to approach local businesses to educate their workforce how they can eat better and train more so that 1, they can feel and look better, but 2, so they can be more productive in the workforce. The business is going, let's book them in. It's going to cost us nothing. And if them lot could be less fat, we could get more work out of them. Then they go to HR and HR goes to people and say, hey guys, we really care about the levels of health and well-being and mental health in our office. So for that reason, we've gone to large expense to get in a health expert to help you guys with your diet. That's how the corporate thing works. So from a proactivity standpoint, humanization standpoint, these are great. These things can get an emotional connection. Putting something on the side of your car isn't. It's just not. And I would say this is a bias thing because me and my partner were driving and we did need a dog trainer and the car in front of us had dog trainer signage on it. And I said, this is a sign from the universe. This is the sign from a God Almighty above. I'm not religious. Let's call it. So we called him. We said, look, we need a dog trainer. He was dog shit. Didier dog shit. He was the worst dog trainer in the world. So maybe I am biased to that. He came round, right, with the dog, got treat. Oh, sit, good boy. Oh yeah, poor, good boy. I'm like, we've already taught him that. He's not a problem in the house, brother. He's a problem out in that park. You can't come round, charge us all that money just to give our dog treats on the balcony. Anyway, moving on. Now, paid ads can circumnavigate social media because you can just peer-to-peer, as they say. You could just pay for traffic to go to your website, pay for traffic to go to your landing page, pay for traffic to go to your squeeze page, whatever it is. However, I do like people to master organic first. Don't just see paid ads as the lady with the red dress in the Matrix that walks past and takes your eye line. If you are going to get into the paid ads, I would recommend that you get good at organic content because your ability to conduct yourself, get your point across, everything you need to do in a paid ad, also you need to get good at an organic content. So trust me, if you are going to do paid ads, it needs to be synergistic with organic content. Not to mention that people often through paid ads want to see some social proof. If you're someone that just turned up in a paid ad, they're like, I want to know more about this person. I want to know if I'm going to spend my money, I want to see this person move and do other things. And if you've got a dormant, dead social media profile and you're spending loads in paid ads, when they come to your page and you haven't posted in 6 weeks, they're going to think this person's a charlatan who's going to run away with my money. So you do really need to make sure that if you're going to do paid strategy, it needs to be coupled with organic. I'm just saying it. What about referrals? When I say to people, so how do you grow and market your business? And they say referrals, that just says to me, that person doesn't have a fucking clue about marketing. Because in my line of work and most other people's line of works, referrals are dog shit. I hate them. Liam, you ever get any good referrals? No. So anytime someone says referrals, because again, when you have a customer or someone with you that's really good or whatever, when you say, oh, have you got any friends that might be right? Although they might have 1 or 2, they haven't got the same level of emotional connection to you. Just because someone goes, oh, my neighbor could be perfect, their neighbor is going to be 10 times harder to convert into a customer than them. You're way better off to use other channels to win that person over. Now, when it comes to business, I hate terminologies where people just throw letters around. They're like, oh, what's the ROAS on that, Sally? Stop using terminologies to appear smart. But there are a few that we just need to understand from the off. Cost per acquisition. Now, when we look at this CPA, if you did a flyering campaign and you spend $300 on flyers and it's an afternoon of your time, but you require 2 new clients, you need to then look at how much you had to pay to acquire new business. And then ideally, it would be good to understand how much in monetary terms that new business is worth to you. So for instance, for my business mentorship, the average client spends a fair whack of money. So our cost per acquisition can be high. It could be $100 and it would still be fine. But the reason that this would be so much harder for my fitness business is, first of all, we charge a lot less for the fitness business, affordable online coaching. Not only that, we then need to fulfill other expenses, app store, app development, coaching costs. So therefore, if we acquire a client that spends $100, we can't spend more than $20 to acquire that person, or we don't make any money. So we need to understand roughly through these means of acquiring new business, what the cost per acquisition is. If the average customer spend, what the average person spends with you, and the cost per acquisition is below that, happy days. Now, if you're a personal trainer or a fitness coach, like, I might put £10 a day on ads. Listen, if your average client is spending £40 an hour with you and they're buying 10 blocks, let's say the average person only did 10 sessions, that's £400. If you could spend £100 acquiring that person, that's great. But if you're someone that then goes, my average client spends 6 months with me, 6 months at 2 sessions a week. If someone trains with me twice a week and they've trained with me for 6 months, how many sessions would that be? That's 52 in it. 6 months, yeah, 52. It didn't work. What is 52 times 40? That's £2,000. £2,000. You should easily be able to allocate 10% of that. You say, we are now, as a coaching business, happy to spend £200 to acquire 1 client. That's crazy. No, it's not, because the average person stays for 6 months, 2 sessions a week. Bursh. Next terminology to get into is just a return on investment, which is similar to that. For how much we spend, what do we get back? With the flyering campaign, if you spend $300 and only make $300, you can say maybe that campaign doesn't work. If your hourly rate for coaching is £40, but you have to spend 2 hours of going around giving out flyers to make that money back, it's not a good use of time because the return on investment just isn't there. Then the last thing we need to look at, the ROAS that I mentioned before, is return on ad spend. So if you spend so much on ads, how much do you get back? And this isn't always the simplest thing to quantify, because you might spend money in ads now that might get someone to go to your website, but then it might take them a couple of weeks to actually make the decision, or they might have slept on it, or they might have come into the physical location and signed up and not signed through the website. So ROAS isn't always a very good and accurate means of determining exactly return on ad spend. Someone just helped themselves to an tonic downstairs. It's a sign of a good product, huh? Ultimately, through these different means, you are to run multiple campaigns and find out what works, what doesn't, what is efficient, what isn't, what returns well on your cash. Because ultimately, if you go out with your kids and you spend $300 on flyers and you make thousands of dollars of business, you should get everyone's kids. You say to all your friends in your network, oi, let me hire your 15-year-olds. I'm gonna give them $20 an hour. They're gonna go flyering, but just make sure they don't hire kids like me when I was younger, because I'll probably just chuck them all in a bin and set them alight and told them I put them through the letterbox. So make sure you trust the right people with that. Basically, the main point of the video is to marketing doesn't always have to be through social media, but we can learn a lot from fingering. Yes, fingering. Gen Z don't even finger anymore. He probably doesn't. The young kids don't do it like we used to do it back in the day. But ultimately, no one really knows what they're doing fingering. They don't. And the only way you're going to get better at it is to do it more. And fingering different people should elicit different responses, because all vaginas, or maybe bumholes, I don't know which way you like to finger, are different. And it's only through trying things you find little different trends. Maybe feeding the pony, maybe saying come here, maybe giving the pneumatic drill, whatever it is that you want to do, you can find out patterns that emerge, what works, what doesn't, what gets a good response, what gets a terrible response. And only over time then can you become the master fingerer. So hopefully for any of you that are navigating the world of social media that maybe aren't quite sure if there's a means or a way to get more clients or get more business, ultimately try everything. Allocate a small amount of funds to it. Whichever one works, double down on it, expand on it, and which ones don't, pull them back. Be creative. This is actually probably a golden opportunity to go for non-traditional means rather than a hindrance. Links are in the description as per always. Hope you enjoyed that, and YouTube will probably recommend you watch this video, and this one will change your life because YouTube's a smart bugger as per usual. I hope you enjoyed that one as much as you enjoyed this. Bye-bye.